Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here today. Really glad to see you all here. I can see some of our clients and prospects that I've spoken with in the last few weeks, so thank you so much for being here. You know who you are. Well, we're really thrilled to have so many attendees here today, and especially some of the finance and accounting leaders from across the globe. If I can see, I think some from London, Sydney, also Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm zooming in here from Italy. My name is Inge. I'm the Executive Director and Head of Europe at Emapta. I'm based here in Italy, as I mentioned, used to live in the Philippines alongside our team with Emapta, and I'm now based in Europe overseeing our operation here in North Macedonia. Today, we're going to dive into the finance and accounting teams that are really evolving, and they're evolving fast, not just around the hot topic AI, but really about structure and global teams overall. We're going to explore a little bit about finance and accounting operations, why dedicated staff is replacing the traditional outsourcing, and very happy to share today that I've got my colleague, work buddy, John, here with me today, who will be able to share some of his experience as a former Emapta client and also some of the best practices. So over to you, John, and good morning to you.
Thanks. Good evening. Thank you, Inge. For everyone, I'm John Raffaele, the Global Head of Finance and Accounting Operations here at Emapta Global. Just to give you a bit of background on myself, I've got nearly 30 years in the experience, including 17 years at a large accounting firm as a partner, and a decade worth of experience of offshoring. So I've seen firsthand how the landscape has definitely been changing from that perspective. Now, this just isn't not another cycle of change. It's definitely been a shift in how we build resilient and teams equipped for the future. So let's dive into why traditional models are not working and what comes next. So I guess from that perspective, Inge and I joined last, I think it was in April. We were down at in London. We went to the Digital Accountancy Show, and it was an amazing couple of days we spent at that show. Common themes that were coming out of that whole show was AI and offshoring, and that's where the focus of the event was going. And we spoke to dozens of finance leaders there, and they were expressing all their frustrations with outsourcing. And it was quite similar, the feedback they were getting, that they were feeling that a lot of the vendors didn't feel like their team was part of how they would operate. And they felt there was no visibility on the day-to-day operations. And they were spending a heap of time in trying to fix up the errors that were made by the outsourcing team. So these issues weren't minor, they were actual structural flaws. So I guess the key challenges with the traditional outsourcing is, I guess, the vendors were actually just treating the finance team as checkbox functions. And some other key issues that were happening where there was poor communication and fragmented workflows, which then led on to little or no control over the team and the quality of the hiring. So with all of that and the inflexible contracts and the slow responsiveness, it just became a bit of an issue. So I guess where we've seen the trend happen is the world has moved on to this new model, so which is really all about real-time collaboration, trust, and embedded global teams, not just outsourcing, but a strategic partnership.
And John, if I may, isn't it also that, you know, some of the people that we spoke with at the accountancy show is that having been exposed to that traditional model of outsourcing, there was a lot of concern and actually quite a negativity around the concept of working with offshore teams or outsourced team, because they had just seen a model where, as you just mentioned, you know, there was no transparency. It was very transactional. It was really more used as a here's my work, give it back to me at the end of the month. And there was just not that feeling of, oh, here's somebody that really cares about my business. So when we had the conversations with people and we told them about like the new way of outsourcing, it was like, oh, that exists? Like, really? And I just thought that was really interesting that even in this day and age where information is shared so openly and, you know, we have access, we have everything at our fingertips, somehow certain businesses still tend to be stuck in old ways and probably need a bit of help to get into the new area.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And I guess, you know, what was traditional and I guess the common thing of outsourcing, it really has evolved. And I think the world has evolved as an economy. And I guess with the disruption of the COVID and what that's done to everyone's just looking at how to operate businesses differently. So having talent that's at your fingertips makes a lot more sense as opposed to that old traditional method that's been around for many years, and that's what people are sort of used to. So I think looking at it from a different lens creates a different opportunity.
And in that, so if we say, you know, the outsourcing is dead, so what's replacing it? Like, what is the new outsourcing? And maybe if you could explain that to someone who probably hasn't heard about it before, like, are we just throwing around words, or what is that new type of outsourcing?
So good point there, Inge. So I guess what is replacing the traditional outsourcing is the dedicated staffing model we're seeing, and it's built to provide, I guess, the businesses with control and able to build out their culture with their team and their capability of their team. So I think that's a huge and important thing. I think the old traditional way doesn't allow you to do that. So that's where we're at. And I guess, Inge, probably gives you a bit of an opportunity to talk about, I guess, the hubs that we have around the
Yeah, I
globe.
mean, it's my passion, right? As I mentioned in the intro, I'm European, but used to live in the Philippines for many years and worked alongside our outsourced teams in the Philippines. And so obviously that is a big talent hub that a lot of people are very familiar with for outsourcing, but it is not the only one. So in this new area of global talent, it's all about finding the right talent for whatever role people are looking for in their business, and making sure that talent is available to work on their respective time zones. So for my clients here in the UK, you know, they follow the UK hours or European Central hours or the US, whichever works, because it's a 24/7 operation anyway. People are very flexible, and so it's easy to do. For us, I already mentioned our team here in Europe is in North Macedonia. That's on Central European time zone. It's right next to Greece. And that's been a real highlight for our European clients and very much welcome because we have people right here. It's a 3-hour flight from London. It's right here in the south east of Europe. So it's really great for the European and UK businesses. But it also works for the US businesses because there's only 6 hours or 6 or 7 hours ahead of, let's say, Eastern time. So it's actually really good alignment too. The larger talent pools that we have is obviously in Asia, with Philippines being next to India, which was probably at the forefront of outsourcing originally. Philippines then came in second, and because of the great English capability and overall cultural alignment with the West, Philippines has been the outsourcing destination. And yeah, we've been there for 15 years. And we also have other talent hubs like Vietnam, Malaysia, Sri Lanka. For example, Sri Lanka has a great talent pool in terms of technology, as well as even accounting and finance, because they have the same British accounting system still from the colonial times. So that's why it is actually very much of an alignment. And last but not least, our team in Colombia, in Bogota, should be mentioned. We have a large operation there that is obviously on the same time zone as the US. And so it's a nearshore location for the US that's been doing really, really well. And with the added bonus of a built-in Spanish capability, as all our team members there speak Spanish as well as English. So with those talent pools, it's just all those countries where you can access great talent for the various roles. And so it's no longer about which task do I need to be done and give like outsource it. It's more about what type of talent do I need to improve my operations, and where can I find that talent? And these are some of the markets that we cover.
Oh, perfect. So I mean, it's a fantastic thing that we've got that broad thing, and I think as the world evolves, it's finding the best talent, no matter where around the world we all are. So, and that's how we should be building out. And I guess when we talk about finance and accounting teams, it's super important that we're looking down the path of building an entire team to help support your onshore team, and I guess it's coming down to outsourcing just different types of roles. So like from a finance and accounting perspective, the things like you can have a virtual CFO, you can create a tax team or an audit specialist or any other support functions that can help manage your business offshore and to support your onshore team. But I guess to succeed as the global finance professionals, I guess a couple of the key qualities that they need to have is that digital literacy. As we move into an era that AI is really coming in quite strong, it's super important that the talent that you do have on that work with you, both onshore and offshore, have that familiarity with AI, robotics, and the cloud platforms, because that's where it's all heading down that direction. And I can tell you from 30 years ago when I first started as an accountant to where we are today, it's evolved dramatically. Like I would have never thought that a computer would be doing half my work as it has now. I guess also the important things with the global professional is to make sure they've got those analytical skills, because that's super important. I guess with the speed of data that it's coming through, being able to analyze and interrogate that data to create trends and understand exactly what the numbers all mean, super important as an accountant. Being able to follow process discipline in respect of having standard operating procedures and workflows, that's also very important in building out those global finance professionals. And I guess that emotional intelligence, it's crucial for collaboration and communication. Now that in working with an offshore team, that you have that. So Inge, I guess it's all about a strategic partnership, right?
Yeah, and just to your last point as well on the emotional intelligence, it's actually something that I'm very passionate about in our daily communications with our customers and teams, because we operate global teams and we help customers build global teams. And with that comes cross-cultural collaboration. So that emotional intelligence, just that awareness of people and their reactions and their expectations and the way of communication is that they might be slightly different is really, really important, but it doesn't have to be a problem. So what I really do, it's one of my biggest passions, is to, work with our client teams and help them to understand some of the cultural differences and how they can better encourage the offshore team members to really fully integrate into their teams, also on an emotional level, so that they really feel engaged. And once you have those best practices and tips and tricks, it's really easy and it's fun, and you get to build that global team. And with that, or like in order to achieve that, yeah, you do need strategic partnership. You do need local partners that help you know the lay of the land in the respective countries, tell you what's culturally appropriate there or what isn't, what to do in a situation in a difficult situation with a team member, or also in a positive situation. How do you reward? How do you appreciate someone's performance? And it's just those things that a strategic partner will bring in. And John, now you and I are partners, and I'm so happy that we are, because before you were a client of ours, and we were also partners in another way. And I just really remember from those days that you were such a great partner, and we really had a very strong strategic partnership because we collaborated on all of those key aspects. Would you mind sharing to our attendees here some of the things that you have done when you were at HLB as an Emapta customer and you ran a very successful offshore team? Because I really think that that's probably what the attendees are after. Like, tell me how to make this work. How do I succeed, and how do I get the same output that you had, John?
Yeah, okay. I'll take a little bit of a trip down memory lane. So I guess for myself, I'd probably classify myself as probably an early adopter looking at the offshoring model. Coming back to the start, when I first started, I actually did try the outsource the model by sending out my work to a provider to actually do the work and then send it back. And hence that were the points that I was sort of raising a bit earlier. So back in 2014, I was heading up a project called the Future People Project at my organization, where I was a partner. And because we really saw the trouble ahead, we saw that it was tightening of talent pools, rising costs, and the growing client expectations from a cost perspective. So they were trying to minimize their costs. So we needed to really come up with a smarter workforce model. At that point in time, back in 2014, I did go over to the Philippines, and I interviewed about 14 different providers in 3 days. So it was quite onerous at that point in time. But one of the ones that, and hence I'm now working for them, Emapta, they really stood out as one of a good provider that I could see the transparency in their model, and I was able to scale, and they were supporting me in trying to build that. So fast forward a little bit further, in June 2015, I built out our offshore team from there. Now, you may ask,
and John,
like,
sorry if I cut in
yeah.
there, but John, you mentioned that you actually shortlisted, like you visited 14 companies. So what was what did you base your decision on? Like, how do you basically, I think a common question is, how do I know which provider or partner to go with? Like, what is important? Do you remember what was some of the factors that made you choose Emapta over others?
Yeah, no, and as I sort of mentioned before, it was definitely the transparency. I really liked in relation to this model here, because a lot of providers, they would just provide a total cost of talent, and for me, transparency was super important, because I understand. For the talent, it's important that they get remunerated accordingly, and I really wanted to steer away, and ensure that for my partners and for our business, that transparency, that we're looking after the team, and they were fully getting paid what they deserved. And it was not going to be a sweatshop. It was nothing like that. It was really going to be a great environment for them, for our global talent. And that was super important to me. And when I went to these various establishments, I actually saw the different types of offices and how they operated and how it sort of looked. And I really liked the look and feel of Emapta for me at that point in time. That they started having these dedicated offices, so I could see my team in the one place. So there were little things like that that really resonated with me, and I just wanted to make sure what I had onshore, I could replicate that offshore, and that was super important to me.
Thanks. That's really good to know. And I think when you said, what you have on shore, you want to replicate offshore, it's really a common theme that I also get feedback here from our clients in Europe is they want to make sure that the way they treat their people in the Europe, in the UK, they want to treat the people offshore, whether that's in Macedonia or Philippines or Colombia, they want to treat them the same. They want to make sure that they are part of their organization. And that's not so easy when you have to work with another provider, right? So I think it's really telling that you had that gut feel that Emapta was going to treat the people right and paying them right as well. And I think that's really, really important, because businesses are not out to good people want to work with good people and they want to treat them well, right? So to achieve that, you really need to make sure you find a partner that can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did feel when I went into the office at that point in time that the team looked really happy when I went in there. So it really made me had a good feel. And hence it really came down to that process of actually piloting a launch. Because again, in a big partnership, you have many partners that want to make sure that what you're doing is going to fit well with the business. So we went down a pilot program. Now, I started that with my home division because, again, I lived in the business advisory perspective, and I put my hand up and I said, well, if this is my project, I'll show you that this can work. So at that point in time, when I first embarked on it, we started documenting all the processes that we actually did within our division. And from there, I started to develop some training videos, because when we would build out our offshore team, the whole idea is they would have a repository of videos and document standard operating procedures so they could follow. So effectively what would happen, what we were doing onshore, that we could replicate that offshore, and hence they could follow that work through. It was interesting enough, as we started to develop as a business, and obviously been there for a decade now, we actually had our offshore team developing the processes as we went forward. So what was quite a large burden, I guess, at that point in time for our onshore team, we moved it through to an offshore team. Then fast forward a decade where we are now with technology, and Inge, you would probably know as well that there's a lot of software out there that can actually do that work for you. So what was a laborious journey in trying to document your procedures now can all be done using technology, which makes it a lot easier. So there's a lot more exciting products out there to help you through this process and make it a lot easier. And then the next part of the process was because of the success of the first division, which is the division that I was in, we decided to do it like on a 90-day cycle. And we onboarded all our divisions within our business to make it so we're just transferring the knowledge and we're scaling the implementation from there. So within 18 months of building out our offshore team, we virtually had each division supported by an offshore team. So with the divisions we have within our business, because we're a full service accounting firm, we had a team offshore that's focused on business advisory, superannuation, audit assurance, taxation, wealth management, finance function, bookkeeping, and risk recovery, as well as we peppered in that whole team, admin support staff as well, and workflow coordinators. So effectively our team really just started to build from there. So that was really important.
And how did that team integrate into the onshore team? You mentioned that every division had their counterparts in the offshore team. So could you share a little bit more on how you structured that? Because I think that's always an interesting aspect as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. So again, I mean, that sort of starts to move down to the team and how we sort of built it together. So what we did again 10 years ago, video cameras weren't really standard on desktop computers. So we did a huge investment in getting little cameras for everyone's computer, both onshore and offshore. So we started to keep that collaboration that everyone could connect at all times with each other. So that was a real a huge shift. I think it was interesting when COVID happened. I think our organization was so advanced in that respect that like it was part of our day to day getting on video calls with our offshore team. So it was quite a good thing. The other thing that we obviously did at that point in time, that we would actually ensure that our offshore team was involved in all our meetings. So we would have either daily huddles or weekly catch-ups and meetings in the respective team. So each respective team within a division would meet with their team at minimum at least once a day, if not more, and they would constantly sort of communicate. And that's the whole part of making it a successful operation, is just making sure that communication's there, and then also that cultural piece as well. Because again, when you're dealing with people from an offshore team, what's probably normal within the business that I had within Australia is quite different to one that's culturally what happens offshore. So it's just trying to build that together and make sure that everyone's on board and understands each other. And I think that was an amazing recipe to build what I thankfully did, and was to build out a high-performing team offshore, which is really well received. And it's become a huge pillar for the business now. Like we couldn't work without them. And it's the interesting part that I know a lot of my partners and also the colleagues in the management area were saying, you know, they prefer to actually work with the offshore team as opposed to the onshore team, because the quality of work, that transparency, and the efficiency of the work that they sort of came through was actually something that they really treasured and thought was very important in running a successful organization.
Yeah, I've heard similar feedback, of course, from our clients, and a recent one that I heard was that they really love working with our offshore team member because they are always dedicated there during the hours that the work hours. They know they're there, and they don't, because they're not physically in the office in the UK in this client's example, or in Australia. They don't get caught up into the office drama or the busy business of the day, and so they tend to be just focus on work and always available. And so there is a lot more efficiency even gained just from that. Of course, our team member also gets up, gets a coffee, has a water cooler conversation. Of course, we do the same, but it is, the hustle and bustle of the business, especially onshore in the office, is less. And that's why I've heard that great feedback as well, that our team members are, just seen as really reliable and dependable.
Yeah, absolutely. Another key factor, I think, Inge, if I may share as well, which was always a huge concern for, I guess, my partners within the business, was the data security. Again, as accountants, we're risk averse. We always run another way. So ensuring that, I guess, the security was right was super important for our business. So Emapta really helped HLB establish a secure offshore environment with encrypted communication and secure data transmission, and ensure that we had strict access controls to protect our data, because effectively, if there was any breach, that would be quite controversial for our business, and we would need to manage that. So I think Emapta definitely helped us there and created that peace of mind. And we like my COO and IT, the chief of CTO, was super. Needed to make sure that was right for us, and effectively to put us all at ease. So I think that's important.
Because it's all about risk management as well, right? So let's, if this is the first time that they're working with resources in another country, I mean, you could potentially really introduce a big risk to the business. And especially after COVID, where, everybody worked from home, sometimes it's almost become, the concept of having somebody work somewhere else is actually pretty much accepted now, even though at the time when you started your team, it wasn't. But I often have conversations with clients who are like, oh, I could just, hire somebody online, just get a contractor online. And we're like, yeah, of course you can. It's absolutely possible. But is that really a risk you want to bring into your business? And when you think about the repercussion, if something goes wrong, or if data is not securely managed, or if the access to your system hasn't been secured, then what? Like that's a business risk that is on the executives. And so I always, when that is brought up and they say, what do you do to make sure that, our data is secure? I always say the short answer is we've got you covered. The long answer is that, we do a lot of things. Like we have an extensive information technology team, including a data or information security team. And all our team members work exclusively on Emapta owned hardware that is preset and pre-configured to ISO security standards. I think that's really critical to highlight, because while everybody might have, you could get a freelancer and they have a laptop and they can access Zero via the browser. So hypothetically speaking, you can think, yeah, it's my Zero access. They could easily log in. Yes, but the data loss prevention aspect of it and where the data is being processed and stored is really critical. And for Europeans, or anyone who deals with European businesses, GDPR compliance is really critical, right? So that is also from an audit perspective and requirements there, that the businesses need to prove that they have taken care of their data and that they know and track who accesses and processes their data. And we do that in a secure way by entering in addition to our service agreement, we actually enter into a data processing agreement as well as an international data transfer agreement with every client to really make sure we document exactly what data is being accessed by our team members of the client. And then our team members, again, work on secure workstations. The example I often mention is that even me as an executive in the business, I cannot download anything on my computer, in the sense like I can't just download any computer software. I can't put the USB stick in, because we really want to make sure we limit the workstation only to the productive work roles like accounting roles or bookkeeping. If they don't need access to YouTube and social media, it's going to be blocked on their computer, because we really want to make sure that's both from a productivity as well as from a security perspective. We want to make sure that it's about work and it's about the output there. And so having all of that managed at the right at the beginning, right before the team member even starts. And that process of onboarding from a technology perspective, it's a very detailed process on our end. And I usually, when the clients see us and our checklist and how we go through, they're like, whoa, you're asking me so many questions. And we're like, yeah, I know, bear with us, because we do it for you. It's going to be your business that's secure and your data. And so for me, it's now a given. We do it on a day-to-day basis. And yet almost weekly, when I speak to new clients, they're like quite impressed on the robust infrastructure that we have to keep them secure, and sometimes better than what they have on shore.
Absolutely. And you know, I can't stress enough how important that was. I probably didn't appreciate it, to be totally honest, when I just wanted to get my work done, and I wanted to make sure that I had the talent available on tap. But I did feel, and again, as I said, my CIO was, felt like we were in safe hands, and we definitely were. And within 10 years, we had no issues, to be honest. So from that perspective, thank God. Not that I thought that anything was going to go wrong, just from me just being a partner in the firm, but thankfully nothing ever happened. And it goes to that point that there's so much rigmarole that happens in the background from I guess the Emapta side to make sure that everything is on point. So, which is really good. So I guess moving on from there, I guess the benefits of what I did within our business, just to round out, I guess, my opportunity of building out the offshore team was, let alone building and finding the best talent offshore that was working better than our onshore team. It was really the whole thing of, and again, we didn't make any role, just to point out as well, because people said, oh, well, you built out an offshore team. What happened onshore? We never made any roles redundant within our business. So this actually helped us build out capacity for our business, again, because the global talent shortage, which is even happening now, as many accountants, many talented individuals aren't going down the path of doing accounting degrees anymore. They seem to not be as sexy as what they were in the past, but I say otherwise. But moving on,
I don't know if they were ever sexy. Sorry, John. I just have to.
I
have to
know,
interject there.
You never know. You could always jump out onto the dark side. But anyways, some of the benefits that we had that I really wanted to share from that perspective is we had some really great growth. We had 15% year-on-year revenue growth, which is amazing, and that's because we were able to have our onshore team work with our clients, spend more time with the clients, and we had our offshore team really the engine room, ensuring that the work was happening, that we had current data that made us, I guess, an award-winning accounting firm, and that, for the last 10 years, which is coincidental when we built out our offshore team, that we're winning all these awards for great customer service, because it allowed us to do that, I feel. Our utilizations rates really were greater than 75%, which was amazing. So we really were able to build out some good productivity from the team, both onshore and offshore, working on high payoff activities that were actually going to create some value for our clients and also for our business, which is very important. Another thing that also happened was our NPS score was more than 80%. So that was great to hear from our clients, who were rating us at a very high level, plus internally from our staff. That moved on to our attrition rates were quite low, because we were doing NPS scores with our staff, and they were constantly giving us really good ratings on how we were operating as a business, because we integrated them so well within our onshore team and our offshore teams, that they were just an extension of our team. They were just living in, they were either what I would classify as now as working from home or just in another office. So it was no different. Another key turnaround was that we had 20% improvement of our turnaround time. So it was a lot faster that we're getting work out to our clients, which really made that really important in such a environment that data is so readily available. We needed to make sure that we were turning around, so our clients were able to get real information, so they could make some decisions on their business at a timely fashion, as opposed to a year later or 6 months later. So that was very important. And again, covering off the roles that we did fill within those various areas, it was accountants, auditors, bookkeepers, paraplanners. We had team leaders and administrators. So all of those sort of came together, and we built out our team to a large team sitting offshore in the Philippines. So I think if we put all that together, And what I did, we created a fully integrated offshore workforce, which was just an extension. So that was of absolute value to our business and how we operated. So yeah,
John,
so
if I
that
may,
was
there I remember when you said, you created that team, really an extension of your team, and I remember seeing you in person quite frequently. Like you actually traveled to Manila every couple of months, right, to make sure you
yeah.
physically also aided that integration. It wasn't just about the structure and how they collaborate via Teams or Zoom, but I remember seeing you in person and also having the team members. We helped with visas and they would travel over to Australia. Maybe you could share a bit more about that, because I think that's something you guys did so naturally, and it was obviously part of the success.
Yeah, no, thank you, Inge. And I do think that is definitely part of the success. And so if anyone is looking to build out that offshore team, that connection with your team, it's no different to your team onshore. You really need to spend that time with them. You really need to, again, catch up with them on a regular basis. So yeah, I was frequenting every 2 to 3 months over the past 10 years. I was definitely a familiar face for the Philippines immigration area. I look at my stamps on my passport. It's pretty much covered with the Philippines. So they may as well own my book. But having said that, it was very important, and it was one of those things that I really wanted to get immersed within the culture over there, and to make sure that I understood how things operated. And I brought team members from our office in Sydney to the Philippines as well, to get to know the team. And that was really important in creating those connections, as well as we had some team members come over to visit us in Australia to understand how we did our work, and then they would bring that information back into the team. Other parts of building that collaborative and the best practices is actually, as I mentioned earlier, is having those daily and weekly check-ins. Again, with performance reviews, we would actually manage those performance reviews onshore with our offshore team to make sure they felt part of our team, and they went through the same process. We would sit down, write goals, work together to help them see their career path, because that was super important for them. To build out an offshore team, I think if they feel like they're just doing a process and that's where their career limits them, I think that will be a slow burn for them. And they probably won't stay with your business for that long. But if you end up creating a bit of a career path for them, that they'll really be engaged and see that there is a future for them. They're not just processing work, they're actually becoming part of the fabric and being able to develop as professionals. And that was one really important thing that I did. I'd made sure that they were to apply themselves very similar to what they would do back onshore. And it's not just to follow a process. They needed to use it, use their professional expertise to actually do the work. So that was some of the key things that we would try and make sure that we did.
I guess that's also a key difference between, let's say, the old traditional outsourcing and this new model. It's really about not just treating the people just on a transactional way, let the bookkeeper do the bookkeeping, but it's really treating them as a person, as a human being, part of their team, and investing in their career progression, which will then benefit your business. And I know some businesses get a little bit scared about sounding, oh my God, I'm going to have to, like, I already have too many people to manage on shore. I don't have the time to manage yet another a team offshore. It does sound a bit daunting to people, but then what you have to understand is that that's where the strategic partnership comes in. It's like, that's where Emapta is there to help along the way. So this is not about creating additional work, but it's about really getting the talent and empowering them to be their best, to add value to your business. And then, just looking at the numbers from your end, you had a 15% year-on-year growth, and obviously that was fueled by that back office. And if we had just treated the people like, here's an accountant, here's a bookkeeper, and here, just do those numbers, crunch those numbers, the work might have gotten done, but there would have been a higher chances of turnover, and the quality of the work is also not going to be as good as with someone who is really engaged and sees this as their career. And in fact, a lot of our team members, they would otherwise, in order to have this type of international career, they previously had to leave their country, leave their family, and move abroad. And now it's actually a big motivator for our team members to say, I can have an international career, but from home, in the sense, from my home country. I no longer have to leave. And I know that's I was just speaking to a client from London last week, and this really made them so happy that they're like, okay, we're not just getting somebody great who helps us with our business. We're also making an impact in their lives and in their careers at the other end of the world. And I don't know, that was a real motivator for them, and I know it is for me. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Wasn't it some conference you went to that one of your clients went to bring a gift or something like that to one of their team members?
Yeah, this was when I was in Manchester earlier in the year. I met some of our clients in person, and they were telling me that, oh, just before Christmas, one of our care professionals there in the healthcare space, came into the office with a little Christmas gift, some cookies for Jane. And they were like, Jane is in the Philippines. This care professional who had been engaging with our team member through the last few months had never even realized that Jane was not in the office in the UK. And that was just the best feedback, because obviously you could see that the work was done well. There was a good relationship established, and the location wasn't even talked about. It was just not an issue. And then I asked what was the reaction of the CarePro when they heard that this person was in the Philippines, and it was super positive. They're like, "Oh my God, I never realized," and "Oh my God, they're amazing." And so that's really was a real highlight for us to hear that kind of feedback.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah, but no, I think it's great when people create those bonds with those people, offshore and onshore. And again, for myself, was creating a bit of a purpose for making a difference in someone's life, and I think people can, right? So that resonated well for me. So Inge.
And did you have any challenges in terms of cultural differences, or I mean, you already mentioned you traveled over regularly, but was there anything else that you did in terms of creating cultural bridges and just overcoming any potential differences?
Well, again, because I spent a bit of time with our offshore team, I was able to sort of bridge that gap. And I guess it was pretty important at that period of time that Emapta actually provided a lot of training for those cultural differences that were important for us to be aware of. Again, I do remember the horror story. I remember one of our team members, and this is very early on in the piece, one of my managers sent an email, and I think in a nice way, I think the text was actually very nice, but she actually used 3 exclamation marks. But those 3 exclamation marks for our offshore team, it was actually thanking that offshore team member, but the onshore team member, that's what the onshore team member did, but the offshore team member took it as a bit of a negative, saying the exclamation mark. So little cultural differences like that, we were able to sort of get on top of really early on in the piece. So I think that's where I think Emapta provided that cultural differences to make sure that we were aware of how to be aware. And one of the things that we found, or one of the things I sort of immersed myself in a lot with the team, was really getting to know everyone. I think that really makes a difference. Again, you've got to treat them all as individuals. And again, coming back to building a high-performing team, feedback that I have received is me actually knowing them. I felt like a father to about 100 different team members over there. So it was really good. So every time I was over there, I was getting hugged. Even now that I returned back to the office, I was in the Philippines a couple of weeks ago, and that they come up and give me a hug. And I was with a client at that time. They're like, "Oh my God, you've got such a prospective client." They go, "You got such great relationships with these people." I said, "Yeah, it's they're part of the family. They'll always be part of the family. So it's just important that you build that relationship with them."
Yeah, and on top of that relationship, that's how you drive ownership, and that's how you also drive performance, right? When it's really about helping the team members offshore understand why they do, not just why they do what they do, not just what they do, and then empower them to really own that and drive those through with the results, and then know that that's what you've successfully managed to do at the HLB, and it's
Yeah,
what we are enabling on a daily basis.
exactly.
Right.
Which is
Well,
good.
I know, you and I, John, we never stop to talk. So I feel like
Yeah.
this is getting dangerous. I think we probably need to cut this off at some point. But I know we also, I'm just asking here whether we have received any questions in the meantime in our Q&A chat. If you do have any questions, please drop them in the notes, or sorry, drop them in the chat, so that we can address them. And if there's any that we cannot address on today's webinar, we'll definitely be addressing that afterwards and get back to you. Let's see, what questions do we have we received so far? All right. So I can see the first questions. Yeah, Hannah, that's no surprise there. The first question is, of course, around AI, the hot topic,
Always.
always. But fair enough. It is really what
It
is
is.
keeping
It's
right. Like it's what we're thinking about all day as well. So the question here is, with so many AI tools out there, how do you know when it makes sense to invest in tech versus just hiring some people offshore? A great question.
it is a good one, Inge. Thanks for that question. So I guess it comes down to the complexity of the task. I mean, AI is great for automation and data handling, but you still need people for that judgment and compliance. So I think that's important that we understand that. So I think that the best way, and the way that I'm sort of seeing it in this current day and age, it is really a hybrid version of it. So it's using AI to get the best of it. So we're actually going through a bit of a process that we're enabling our talent that we have on at Emapta to be AI enabled, to make sure they're able to use that automation and that technology around it to develop and deliver really good results for their clients. So I think hybrid is the answer.
Right. Because I often hear like, oh, we're going to have AI take over that whole thing. And we're like, yeah, when is that going to be? And how do you get there? Like, even in the implementation and the adaptation of AI tools into businesses, we work with a number of businesses in that regard. We have an AI division within Emapta that helps us with that internally, but that also advises clients. And it's not just like, oh, here you go, you switch this system on, and then it does all your bookkeeping and all your accounting. You will still need human interaction, inputs, judgments, relationships. And so the combination of that and even the implementation of the system is where the offshore team can really come in handy. And so that's why, yeah, I reckon it's gonna be a hybrid approach for most activities for a long time to be.
Yeah. I don't think you'll ever get away with human interaction, and in my humble opinion, and I think if you do that, I think your business will suffer as well. So you definitely need to keep that human interaction going, irrespective of the technology that's evolving, and it'll continue to evolve. As I said earlier on in the piece, that 30 years ago, where accounting started, technology has been involved in changing the landscape, and it'll continue to change the landscape. But it's just how you adapt as a business to make sure that it works for you.
Right. The second question we have here is, a concern for me is, how do I manage the quality of the work when it's done offshore? Like, how do we even know that the staff in the Philippines would understand UK accounting standards?
Yeah. It is a valid concern. I guess it really comes down to the quality really starts with recruitment. That is really important. And then moving on from that, it's the onboarding and training. And you'll actually find, and again, I found that you'll actually find there is talent that is sitting in the case that I had. And I remember seeing CVs that would have the training within those UK framework, or in our case, it was the Australian framework. So it made it a lot easier. So they were fully aware of how everything happened within various jurisdictions. So because I guess the outsource or the offshoring and people using talent offshore has been a huge part of talent over there in the Philippines in this circumstance. So they definitely had that experience. So I guess it's all about the integration and making sure that you've got that direct management that works with those team members. But I guess the quality of work I actually found to be better, as I sort of said, so that they wouldn't have to worry about that.
All right. I think we're going to go the last question for now, otherwise we'll be running over. What are some of the common mistakes companies make when they offshore, or example of when it goes wrong?
Inge, do you want to take this one? Oh.
Yeah, definitely. Happy to. Yeah, I feel like the biggest mistake is rushing through the process or expecting it to be something that is just like, yeah, switch on here and then switch off there. Like that's, yes, you can do it that way, but then it's very much prone to error. So the lack of documentation sometimes is a challenge as well, though nowadays with the as John mentioned earlier, with the tools that we have, the recording tools, the AI meeting notes, as well as some of those process documentation tools, it's become much easier. But when clients treat the offshore team really as just as a transactional type of, you know, somebody at the other end of the world just doing some work for me and just waiting for the work to get back, that might be okay for some time, but it's not going to add value over the long term. So we do see when they come in with that type of attitude or expectations, we really try to bring in our expertise and help them see the light on just with these little few things that they could do to just really get more out of the offshore team. And that probably aligns with just the way they treat their offshore team as well, how they integrate it. If you really integrate the offshore team into the onshore team, as John mentioned in his examples, that's when you create so much value and really get to benefit the business in the long run. Right. So we've already gone over time, so I believe we might need to close it off here. Here you'll see on slide a bit of a summary on the new model, the new era of outsourcing, and how that is different to the finance and accounting firms globally. I hope you got some good learnings from this, but if not, we can always connect with you directly, because it's not a one size fits all approach. It's really about identifying what's important, where your business is at in the growth stage, in also in the adoption of technology, and in your trajectory, so that we can help really customize an offshore plan and look into where to start, what roles to start with, and how to start building that offshore team.
Perfect.
All right. So thank you everyone for being here today. We really appreciate the interest, and it was really great to see some of our known customers or prospects joining us. So thank you for your time today. We will be sharing the responses to the Q&A and our notes after this session, and we'll be happy to respond to any more questions on a direct note. You can contact us after this. And yeah, thank you so much. And thanks, John, for getting up early today and co-hosting this with me today.
Thank you, Inge. Thank you, everyone. Have a good
day. All right,
day.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.